How's it going, Harbor Hawks fans? Welcome back to another parking lot preview. Mike Najarian, joined as always by Matt Ford-Wellman, and we got Graham Nash back on the program today. We had him at the end of June on the road against YD. That game didn't go so well for the Hawks. Graham picked YD, so his score prediction ended up being right. But, Hawks have been on a little tailspin in the month of July, so hopefully having Graham back, the Hawks can get out of this tailspin going on here.
Jobu should be happy with this pick tonight. I think we are moving in the right direction.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we'll get this. Yeah, we got a matchup between the 10-13-3 Hyannis Harbor Hawks taking on the 11-12-3 Chatham Anglers. Hyannis 1-0-1 against Chatham this season. Last time we were here, Matt, it was a 7-7 tie. It was early in the season, but it was a tie. What do you remember from that one?
It was a weird one. It was kind of the first game I remember the Harbor Hawks almost seeming uncomfortable. Chatham did come back in that one and did a really great job at just hitting the ball and making the base runners they got count. Hyannis did struggle a little bit at the end of that game, kind of in manufacturing some runs in putting over those extra runs to win the game. I think that may signal kind of the month of July a little bit. Are those extra runs, those base runners? But I think, being back at Veterans Field, that, you have that opportunity to get those base runners on and to get them in. I think that's going to be the star next to the objective for today is, getting those base runners on, manufacturing those runs. And I think that's what Hyannis wants to do today against Chatham, kind of disrupting what they did last time.
Yeah, the Hawks lately, they've lost 5 in a row, and 3 of those losses have been by 1 run. They lost by 1 to Wareham, they lost by 1 to YD, and they lost by 1 last night to Bourne. Graham, what have you kind of seen? Because we've seen rallies in the ninth by this offense. They've just always seemed to, they've started out fast, they got a run across the board, and it just kind of fizzled out.
Yeah, that's right. It's partially been because the pitching has really struggled from innings really 4 through 9, but specifically innings 7 through 9. This Hyannis pitching staff has the worst ERA in the entire Cape Cod Baseball League. The Bats have had opportunities. The Bats has a season or a July average that's just 2 points below their June average right now. So the Bats, if you think of it that way, are still producing in the way that they did when they were the best in the Cape League. It's just they haven't been getting hits in the right time. Over these last 14 games, Hyannis is batting 192 average with runners in scoring position. And that's when you need to be clean. Their opponents are batting above 300. So that's kind of the story right now, is that opponents are doing a really good job when they got runners on second and third. Hyannis is not matching them.
Yeah, we just talked about trying to limit scoring chances by the opposition. Matt, who's the starting pitcher for Hyannis tonight, trying to limit Chatham's scoring chances?
So I think in the starting spot tonight on the bump, Tsubasa Tomi, he's going to come in and really have, hopefully a different game. And I say different in that I think Tomi's had a little bit of struggle getting into that 4th and 5th inning. He's had some struggle. This will be his 3rd start. His first 2 were not necessarily long. His last one, I think you said he even had 30 pitches in the first inning we were discussing. That's not going to, get you into the 4th and 5th and kind of dig into some of those bullpen innings that have been the struggle for the Hyannis Harbor Hawks. 1 and 3 so far with a couple decisions, 4.9 ERA, but that's a little deceptive. With the short innings, he's given up a run here, a run there, and that's been his start. I think if he gets a little longer, you'll see that ERA drop. Obviously, metrics aren't everything, guys. What I really do want to look at is the 9 walks to 12 strikeouts. Tomi's getting strikeouts. His stuff is good enough to get those strikeouts. Limiting those walks, obviously, is the goal for every pitcher, and he has been so far. The free passes have not killed him. It's been kind of little base hits here and there, kind of fastballs in the middle of the zone from what I've been seeing. I think if Tomi really wants to go late in this one, got to be efficient. Got to pitch to contact with those off speeds. Be aggressive with those, those deceptive pitches. He's filthy when he gets out of the zone. Make him in the zone. Get some ground balls. Get some flats. Tsubasa's a little bit of a ground ball pitcher. He leans a little bit more that way with the fog here in Chatham. I think that might help him. The ball gets lost up there. We don't want to see any errors for the Hyannis Harbor Hawks, and that's kind of bringing me into my next point. That defense has to be nails tonight. They got to just dig in and really find another 0-error game, just like they had last night against Bourne. Playing really strong, up the middle, with Ryan McKay and Jake Schaffner is going to be so important. And then the outfield is just going to have to cover some ground when they can. I really feel if Tomi can get deep into this one, Hyannis puts themselves in a better position to win come 7-8-9.
Yeah, Chatham's got the lefty Charlie Foster on the mound from Mississippi State today. He's had 5 relief appearances. This will be his first start. He's pitched 13 2/3 innings. His last time out was July 9th against Brewster. Pitched 2 innings, gave up 2 runs, 3 hits, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts in a loss. He's had he's had an interesting season. His ERA is high at 6.59. His WHIP is also 1.46. He's averaging just under 6 walks per nine. He's striking out a lot of guys though too. He had his first appearance on opening day against Falmouth, 4 scoreless innings, 6 strikeouts. Since then, he has not had a scoreless appearance. He gave up against Bourne. He gave up two runs, 1 earned. Against Falmouth, the next time he gave up 5 runs. Against Orleans, he gave up 2. Against Brewster, he gave up 2. And he's only given up 2 home runs, but those 2 home runs were both 3-run shots. Those ended up really hurting Chatham in that game. And because it's a lefty, Graham, we have a new look lineup for the Hawks tonight. Any guys you think have a chance to take Charlie Foster here deep?
Well, you got to think about the righties, right? You got to think about a guy like Jace Doby, who's been unbelievable. But don't count out the lefties in the lineup. That's all I'll say. They've been facing a lot of lefties in the early parts of July. Opposing teams seem to put together that their lineup is mostly lefties. And so they've seen a lot of lefty arms, and they've still been able to produce pretty well this month. They, again, haven't been able to get the big hits or the home runs, but they've been able to score. And they've been able to get on base, especially in the leadoff position, which is very impressive. So I think that the guys in the top of the lineup are going to be really good again. I think you look at a Jake Schaffner to maybe craft another double like he did yesterday, or a triple like he did the day before, or even Ryan McKay. Ryan McKay is a guy that's got really good pop. You don't see it a lot in game, but during batting practice, the sound off of his bat is unbelievable. So we haven't seen a long ball from either Schaffner or McKay. I think they can do it. I also think Jace Doby's got a big bat.
Yeah, and looking at the Chatham offense, they're kind of hot and cold. They're really good in some stats, and they're not great in some other stuff. They're last in the league in steals. They have just 24. They're bottom 5 in home runs. They have the second most strikeouts in the Cape League. Bottom 5 in slugging. Middle of the pack in OPS, but they're tied for the league lead in RBIs. They're top 5 in runs scored, top 5 in hits, top 5 in doubles. And that's kind of crazy when you think about it, because the only active Chatham player with more than 1 home run and an OPS over 800 is Daniel Jackson. They only have 1 player
Interesting.
who's hitting so far,
Sure.
who's hitting right now, but because of the guys they had earlier in the season, some of the guys who got drafted recently, their offense, doesn't look half bad. And I think because of that, Hyannis does have a little bit of work to do. That's why you're hoping Tsubasa Tomi can get into the 4th and get into the 5th inning and save a bullpen, Matt, that is going to be kind of looking to scrape together innings here before the All-Star break with a couple important relievers not necessarily available.
Yeah, I mean, you're missing Ryan Speciak in the 8th and or 9th. 100%. I really don't see him pitching this week with the All-Star game. I think he's almost a guarantee. If we do, it would be an absolute treat, and I'll consider that a win for everyone involved. But at the same time, you got to respect the All-Star selection. Same with Tyler August. I don't expect to see him the next 2 days. Additionally, we had a huge bullpen game last night. Griffin Graves threw 2 innings. He's not going to go today. A couple other guys really got in and got their hands dirty. I think it's going to be a war of attrition today. I really do feel like if Hyannis can bump the starting pitcher, get to a right-hander, we can see the bench flood. We can kind of see a lineup change, or just runs manufacture themselves. On the other side, free bases are going to kill. Teams who have good RBIs, you can't let a guy get to second. You can't let a guy get to first for free, let alone. Got to let him earn every single inch of that. And I think, overall, yeah, the relievers are going to get the burden on this one, but it's going to come down to the starters and both lineups to kind of win that fight in the first 5 innings.
Yeah, it's good that you mentioned that, because before we get into, you just kind of mentioned what you think the blueprint is for Hyannis to get a
little
win.
bit.
Before we get into player of the game and score predictions, Graham, what do you think is going to be the blueprint for Hyannis to get a win today? Especially because last night against Bourne, they out-hit them, had no errors, and still found a way to lose.
That's baseball.
Yeah, that's baseball. And Bourne had 5 errors and still managed to win. It was just, that was what the game felt like. It was a game of baseball. You never really know what's going to happen. I think for Hyannis, it's going to be playing small ball a little bit on offense. They've got to steal. They have totally lost their identity of stealing bases this month, and I think it's kind of killed them. In July, they stole the most bases, or in June, they stole the most bases in the Cape League. In June, they've stolen the least. So I think that they need to get back to that. We saw it a little bit yesterday with Ryan McKay. He stole a couple bags. We saw it in the game before. A couple more chances, but they're getting caught. So the key, I think, is going to be challenging the catcher behind the plate for Chatham early and often. Get him thinking back there behind the dish about having to pop up and throw down at second. Even if you get caught at your first try, don't give up. Go right back to it. Because Chatham is a team that you said can manufacture RBIs. So you kind of have to match them, I think. And, people will say you can't beat someone at their own game. But I think in this case, you got to try because nothing else has really been working for Hyannis.
Yeah, and I think having Owen Prince fresh into the fold from VMI with 46 steals in just over 50 games, I think that's going to help Hyannis sort of get back to stealing bases. Of course, he didn't get on base last night, so getting him on base is the key to getting steals from him. But, we don't have to worry about that right now. What we will do right now, though, is we'll get into player of the game and score predictions, and Matt, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think the player of the game falls to a couple guys that really can make a difference and have been making a difference. One of which being Jay Stovey has been really, really hard to get out. And as a hitter, being a tough out is a badge of honor. You wear that across your chest like a little sash. I am a difficult out to get. I'm going to make it hard on a pitcher. I'm going to take 9-8 pitches. I'm going to make it tough, and I'm going to make base hits happen. I think Jay Stovey is that guy. I have him going 2 for 5 with 3 RBIs. Okay. Obviously, it's going to happen, I think, a little later in the game. He's hitting in the 2 spot today. It's going to be hard to get a couple RBIs from that position, but I can definitely see, good contact coming from him. Whether, some people say to hit 300, you got to go 6 for 10 line drives. I think Jay Stovey definitely can do that. He's going to find line drives out there, whether they get caught or not. That's, up for the baseball gods to tell us, not the other way around. And I think that's kind of what this game is going to be is can you get the ball hit hard? Can you find a way on? I think Jay Stovey does that better than anyone. Bit of a higher score last night. I think we're going to get a bit of a medium score in there. Okay. I think we're going to – I like a 6-4 ball game. And I'm picking Hyannis. I think we're going to get a couple. No. Our media team just clowns us on these predictions at all times, I swear.
These guys cannot believe it behind the camera. Yeah.
No, it's not. It's never 6-4.
What do you think?
Oh, man. I am going to maybe take a prediction that's not that bold.
Okay.
For player of the game. I'm going to say Ryan McKay. I think that someone has to, and I'm going to be that guy. Okay. He's playing so well, and even when he wasn't, even over his stretch where he went 0 for 8 over the course of 2 games, he bounced back the very next ball game and went 3 for 3 with 2 walks. He backed that up with getting a hit yesterday. So I think that he's kind of refound his form. I think that after a little bit of a cold stretch, he's managed to get his momentum back. I think that he's going to have another multi-hit performance. I think he's going to go, I'm going to say 2 for 4. I think he's going to have a double in there. And I think he's going to have an RBI and a stolen base.
Okay.
I mean, I'm going for a long line today.
Yeah,
I think
big stat line.
Long line. As for my prediction, as we know, I chose YD the last time on this show.
Yes.
Since then, Hyannis has won once?
Twice.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's my duty to choose Hyannis.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I like the 2-run difference, though. I'm going to say 4-2 Hyannis.
All right. And I think it's very fitting that you picked Ryan McKay today after Tim Brown took Ryan McKay from you as his player of the game pick.
True.
That's right.
So I think that's another kind of full circle thing as well. As we try to break out of this 5-game losing streak here, I am going to go with, in terms of score prediction, I think. Give me 5-3. I like the
2-run difference, man. I'm okay with that.
Difference here. I like that. I think it's these teams. These teams have played each other well this season. A tie and a win for Hyannis. No reason to think these two teams won't play each other well again tonight. Especially with both teams needing a win to help themselves in the standings and the playoff race subsequently as well. So 5-3 Hyannis. They're going to win today. I'm sticking with it.
All across the board. Good.
Because when I picked a tie against YD, trying to change, it didn't go well. So I'm just back on the Hyannis train now. Player of the game. I'm going to pick a new guy. I'm going to take a chance on Dayton LaChance. He's in the lineup tonight as the DH. He had a nice little debut for himself yesterday behind the plate. So I like Dayton LaChance as my player of the game and a 5-3 Hyannis win.
Guys, 2-run game for everybody all around. I think we all like Hyannis' odds today. It's going to be a a great game out here. Hopefully the fog lets off and we can get a full 9 in, and that's always the goal, right?
Yes.
Fellas, what do we got for the fans at home? Hopefully we can pack Chatham, but if we can't, we got to be screaming for our own fans, guys.
Yeah. And we can say,
Go Hawks!